Kathy Vick, Deeply Awake Chats 2017. Well, I gotta tell you, I'm having a very, very wonderful weekend. Quiet. I'm justifiably and peacefully by myself, without worry, with happiness. It's really nice to have that as my experience, to not have the separation of me and my kid be one where I know that he's not in the best hands. So it's awesome to have this weekend, the first, for both of us. So it's neat. It brings to mind the concept of timelines. I've heard a lot about timelines closing, collapsing, ending. So I want to tell you a story, and I want you to be thinking about this as it applies to timelines. I think I know how it applies. I know how it applies. But I don't know how it applies now. And perhaps we'll puzzle that out at the end of my story. So it was the fall of 1994, and I was in the middle of putting a book together called The Gift of Words. Another snapshot that I was taking at the age of 33 instead of 22. 11 years after I did the same thing before I went to nursing school. I wanted to give my friends and my family a book that was sort of a snapshot of all the things that I found so helpful and peace-inducing and laugh-out-loud funny. So it was lots and lots of cartoons and visuals like I do on Facebook for my friends. But it was also a hard copy of stuff from the Book of Urantia and my old church and the Aquarian Way, and stuff from Alice Bailey and the Bible, and a therapist of mine. Just lots of nuggets of yummy. But let's not forget the context. I had just worked for 2 years, weekly, sometimes more than weekly, with the teachers. We had been trained, meticulously trained. And willingly, they had a bunch of people around them who understood what was going on for them. On the 12/12 of 94, they were going to ascend. They explained that they were going away. They would no longer be available to us because they were shifting their vibrational signature. Doing. And so that's what we were working on. And it was coming up. And I knew I was going to be different. I wasn't grieving anything. I wasn't sad. I was buoyant. I was on purpose. And I was really happy to be doing this book. And I was also writing a novel at the time too. And between those two activities, it's like heroin to a writer, to be in the middle of the creative process. I was highly expanded. And I decided I wanted a break. So I went to a metaphysical bookstore I enjoyed at the time, no longer in operation, called, you ready? Ready for it? Called the 12th House. Okay. So it's a beautiful, beautiful fall evening. And I drive my little red VW Bug with its sunroof over to the 12th house. Park my car on the sidewalk adjacent to the store, a little bit north of the store. Get out and go in. I can remember very well this evening. I perused the bookstore and I just didn't feel comfortable. I didn't feel like I was part of the in crowd. I felt weird. I felt sad. I felt off. I didn't buy anything. I remember there was a magazine rack that was circular, and I looked at some of this stuff. I remember going upstairs, but it just, you know how sometimes you go in someplace and you're just like, bleh. This was going to be fun. It's no fun. So I thought, well, I'll just go home. I left the store, turned left to go to my car, and my car's not there. It was weird because my immediate thing, my go-to thought was not, oh, it's been stolen, I need to call the cops. It was this physical shock and of unreality, because it should be there. So I decided to go back in the store. The second time in the store was a different experience for me. It was comfortable. I remember the wood floors. I remember a magazine rack on the wall. I remember a tapestry. We were talking to a guy about a necklace. I decided to look at the necklace again, and I talked with him about it. I may have purchased it. I don't remember. That may have been when I purchased that bracelet. I have a bracelet with Sanskrit. It's this prayer to the Bodhisattva of compassion. I don't know. But that's where I bought that particular bracelet. It seems to me I might have done that on my second encounter. I remember going upstairs and learning about a class. Then I went downstairs and I exited the bookstore without talking to anybody about they're using their phone. There were no cell phones back then. I left the bookstore instead, and I looked to the left, and there's my car. So I climbed in and went home. Stuck a pin in that and brought it to the teachers. Said, maybe you could explain this for me. It was one heck of a weird experience. It was such a lovely thing to have counsel. They said, yeah, well, that was a parallel reality. Yep, they exist. And you were in one. Now, many years after. Many years. 23 now. Pretty. The numbers are pretty. So pretty. 23 now, but last year was 22. It was a big year. I began to explore the truth of multiplicity of self. It's not a stranger who was in that bookstore and feeling uncomfortable. It was a bleed through. It was timelines coming together, affecting one another, and then splitting apart again. That's what that was. And I have full information about that. And I'm finally at peace with things that I wasn't at peace with before, because I can understand what was going on. And I can't really go into great detail. Suffice it to say that relationships don't die. And I'm beginning to rethink what karma is all about. I think karma is being deeply in lesson of misunderstanding some very basic things and working from your coding instead of from reality. Do I do that? Yeah. Or at least I used to. I do it less and less now. I started to surprise myself with my reactions in 2012. And just allowing myself to behave much differently than I normally would. But it started happening right after my son was born. I remember asking two of my friends, is it disingenuous if, when I am encountering someone who has always been a mortal enemy, I can't help but be compassionate and nice to? Am I being insincere? What's going on here? Because I couldn't control it, but I was being nice to someone who I'd never been nice to. And I felt weird, because I was behaving in a much different way than normal. It started with one person in 2000. And it has it amplified in 2012 when I found myself again behaving in ways that felt so right, but were brand new, but seemed familiar, and netted better results. Everyone was happier. 2012 was a big year for me, looking back. I'm certain for you too, if you look back. That time, you might put it from, I don't know, a lot of things were happening early, but, things got intense. That was my timing anyway. Some people had their awakenings earlier, later. Doesn't matter. What matters is that you had them. That's what matters. If you haven't had big crack open moments, well, I can I did it the hard way. You don't have to do it the hard way. You can do it through learning this and vicariously having the hard way. That's sort of the idea. There's a bunch of us with machetes going whack, 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 and clearing the underbrush. That's the whole idea behind the waves of consciousness. The first wave does that. Louis C.K. does it by making you laugh out loud. So do other comics. And I've done it a different way. So there you go. But the idea behind all of this, I think, is to give you an idea that this is actually possible. And it happens. So the other day, I was having this really jumbly day. Bizarre. Pushed, pressured, weird. Jingly jangly. And things kept popping in and out of my wallet. My bills kept changing denominations. My laundry cards were empty and then they were full. It was so weird. And I'm having this experience again and again and again and again, forgetting that I've done something and then remembering that I've done something. And then it was the weirdest thing. And in the middle of all of it, actually toward the conclusion of it, a lot of activity, a lot of just boom, 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 and problem solving and all that. They just sort of just broke in and said, timelines, dear. These are timelines. And what I used to experience, a slow, obvious, hey, here it is, there's 2 timelines here. Now it's like boom, 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 boom. Pick a timeline, pick a timeline, pick a timeline. And the question then becomes, okay, well, what timeline am I in? Is it based on my thoughts? It's based on a lot more than what you're thinking. You can think somebody dead. They don't drop dead, okay? We don't have that kind of power in this brain pan. It's a body thing. So I want to end by telling you how I've been waked up the last 2 mornings. The first time, God, I get this information, I roll over, oh wow, that's so beautiful. Wow, yeah, I really want to live that way. Oh, I feel so good. I feel so relieved. Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Oh, some coffee would be so great. I'd just love to. What was that thought again? I can't get it back. And I used to think that there was something that was bad or wrong, and I was doing it wrong. But then I kind of have figured out that, okay, the day after the speed limits got turned up, you could go faster. The day the speed limits nationally got turned down, you had to go slower. It's all in relation, but there's a limit that you could reach that you couldn't before. Same with daylight savings. First, it's dark at 6 p.m., then it's not dark at 6 p.m. You can forget about it at 8 o'clock in the morning or halfway through the day. It doesn't change the fact that things have changed. Your environment has changed. Things that weren't available now are. Things that were not available are. Things that were available aren't. And you can sit down and cry about it or sit down and scream about it, but it's not going to change the fact that things have changed. That's how it's been feeling. So I figure, okay, well, anymore when I have that experience of here's this big, huge aha moment, and then I can't remember it. All right, so it is. And I remember I said, when it's time, I'll remember it. Thank you very much. I know it. I know it's good. I know that's where I'm going. So the very next day, this morning, I had it again. Whee! I was helping someone, and it was very hard to distinguish in the dream if it was me or it was someone else who I was helping. But we were at a box or a suitcase, one of the two, and we were going through stuff. It was their stuff, but I had my own awarenesses because a lot of the stuff is what I'd given them. It was random stuff. And as I was taking each item out, it was like I was hit with this barrage of data. When I encountered it the first time, what it has meant to this person since, its future as an object that's meaningful to others, how it was manufactured, where it was manufactured, where the raw materials came from, the whole arc. In the texture of the weave that my fingers are touching, and somehow it's in my body and I'm aware of the whole thing. And I was struck with how much data there is. Contrast galore and so much information. And in my dream I was going yakety yakety yakety. I was talk 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 talk. And then it was like I was completely interrupted by good counsel. And the question was, well, I was told, look up, look at that person's eyes. Now look down at what you've got in your hands. You know the significance of this item. What it means to them, what it meant to you, what it means to itself, what it means to others. This information, this knowledge you contain in your hand. Look at them. How are they feeling about what you're doing right now? How are they doing? How are you doing? How do you feel right now? We just wanted to ask, because that's the issue. That's the task at hand. Now that I'm in a place where I have access to whatever I need or want, basically, if I'm quiet enough or expanded enough, and I have other friends who are just like this, then it's just common knowledge between us. Once you have access to everything, then things change. All right, look what's in my hand. Look at those eyes. Look at that face. Look at that body. Are they relaxed? Are they scared? Are they angry? Are they sad? How are you feeling? Look at what's happening. Going through belongings, deciding what is kept and what isn't kept. And it's from there that I just felt such softness and gentleness and like a new breeze blowing in to my bedroom. Like, yeah. And once again, the teaching came. Truly, it has been for me about understanding and being understood. Truly. Thank God for that, because I have a library as a result. And I think my work is beautiful. But what if right now what's happening is moving me and everyone, maybe, kind of in touch with the collective, from understanding and being understood to more loving and being loved, giving and being given to, helping and being helped, laughing mutually, sharing happily, petitioning the other for help, and being met. Doing something final. Can it be undone? Well, depends on intention, I guess. Do you want it to be undone? Is it your intention that it's undone? Or is the intention that it's complete? Once it is complete. So, I'm going to continue with my lovely, lovely, lovely day. I've eaten 2 pastries so far and a big thing of egg thingy. Feels good to be full. And it feels good to be happy. And I don't know, I listened to the video that I just did. And I think it's beautiful. The delivery is odd. There's a lot of pauses. It happens when I'm channeling. But I think I also was like that so I could transcribe it more easy. Well, that's kind of nice. Because I do think that that's a pretty powerful bit of information. But I wanted to bring something a little bit lighter to you today. That of timelines. Now, if I can pop into someone else's reality, someone else, and be experiencing it as mine, and be so confused that I don't have my car there and I'm there too, and it's hard to explain how it happened, right? Well then, I think that it's possible for us to be going through a lot of other things that are maybe head scratchers. And that the timeline's closing. I don't see it that way. I see it as a change in positioning of focus. I could have been focusing in on the random thingy-do in my hand, but I was asked to look up and not just feel responsible for what the other person was feeling, but to actually genuinely care and to know that I'm there as a help. This is really nice. It tells me that a lot of the quizzing and the chinking and the working it out is complete. So it's about focus. And it has, I think, less to do with the brain and more to do with an integrated, coherent operating system, with the impetus, the intention being that of relaxation, safety, assistance, without all the you made me feel blah and you made me feel blah. So, good. Lesson learned. It took 2 days, 2 visitations. And this may be the way of it. I mean, there always has been big swells of information, and then a little bit of relaxation and fun. So this is my relaxation and fun day, and I do have work to do. And I did. We split atom after atom after atom in this house last week, and now I'm just gonna continue my work happily and at peace. I will say to end that some of the stuff that I bring up is, pretty powerful stuff, and it comes from powerful experience. It's not like it comes from experience, and some of it may not be easy to hear, but the truth is that if you go through hell, okay, well, we all go through hell. Each of us. We each walk as Christ, so to speak. We each suffer when the loved ones we have around us suffer. And we each go through suffering, and others suffer for us. Suffering is sort of, I don't know, it's palette from which we draw our paints and paint our landscape sometimes. But what happens when the colors change? This has been a metaphor that's come through again and again in my work. The paint actually coming alive, where you just dip it in, go, and scenes that you can walk into are created. It's no longer picking one color, picking another color. No, it's just and lots of other metaphors about the paints with which we choose to paint our reality. So, and I talk about suffering because I know there are people who suffer. And this is a way that we become strong and compassionate individuals who can identify with people when they go off the rails. Who knows what it feels like to be on the receiving end of that? Compassion, compassion, compassion. But, then you get to make a choice. What kind of painting do you want to walk through? When there's bombs going off all the time? Well, sometimes, I don't know, bombs can be kind of fun. Putting on my warrior outfit, I guess. I get tired of it. Sometimes it's what's required. It's good to have skills. But for the most part, it's really nice to have a period of quiet. I'm not equating my son being gone with, having quiet. But it is so reparative for me to be by myself. It's really, and it's not just you stay in your room, I'll stay in mine. No, physically, it's wonderful to be alone. It's like a food. I was very worried when I would go do an event on an evening and leave my kid. And he was 16, 15. And finally, he just looked at me and said, "Mom, will you please stop? Me being alone, it's like oxygen. I need it. Stop feeling guilty." I realized, oh yeah, we are a little tribe of complete and utter hermits. And we don't fare well when we don't have time by ourselves. So I will gladly grant my son that. He's going to need it. He gets Monday all to himself. And I know after this weekend, he is going to need that to just reset. And what I like about this metaphor of the box is that having compassion for somebody, feeling what they might be feeling, imagining what they're feeling, and not wanting to educate it, not wanting to scold it, not wanting to enlighten it, but just being there. Aww. It's a natural process. And I don't want anybody, including me, to be put down for the arc of learning that has to occur when there is a blossoming of DNA. It's not wrong to puzzle these things out. It is necessary. But it's not one that it's not a task that must be done in perpetuity. And so part of it is allowing myself to change again. So timelines, are they closing? What's available to you now that wasn't available to you? Emotionally, intellectually, in your desire, treasure chest that you don't share with anybody else, with what you know is possible, what you know isn't possible anymore, within your own being, within your life, within your storyline. I like thinking that my life is a poem, a living, breathing sculpture, a story. But oh, how many subplots. And I'm one story, being told by someone who is telling more than one. And these stories bump into one another from time to time. I think that's multiplicity. knowing that we are all doing this cooperatively, independently, but entangledly. So, I do want to mention, Sandra Walter has talked about it, and I've experienced it many times. I've experienced shifts, and I've always just described them to energy shifts, where it's one way, one moment, and then it's like the earth moves and everything feels different. It smells different. It looks different. It's different, and I am different, and I've had that happen to me before. And sometimes it's been the harbinger of things that energetically were not that easy. So I am not always the most rosy and excited person when I see these shifts, because I don't know. Maybe bad things are going to happen now. Well, I think if the goal is that we're going to become more and more, I don't know, aligned and I don't know, responsible and happy, we got to get rid of the things that limit that. And sometimes that means things break apart. And sometimes that means you get knocked around a little bit, because you need that much firepower to get you off your butt and moving away from something that isn't going to serve any longer. It may serve right now, but it ain't going to be serving in a while, so get off the dime. That's sort of how my reality works with me sometimes. So timelines, there's certain things that are not going to be available. Like when the teachers ascended, they did their thing. They weren't available. They kept going on. And so it's about perception. As we become more perceptive and more aware and have more access to data, I think there just comes a time when I'm comfortable with it. I know what to do with it. I know my priorities. I know how important it is to stand witness and to not take it personally, to not be reactive. So I'm going to tack along a really amazing meditation that Sandra Walter did on Divine Neutrality. It's very high level, it's very beautiful, and I think it's perfectly timed for this message. One that I hope confounds you a little bit and excites you a little bit and brings you home more and more. All right, that's all I have to say. Happy. Namaste.